Step 25 is the first thing that all of my pitchers do when they start their pitching warm-ups, either before a game or a practice or a lesson. And I say before they start their pitching warm-ups because prior to their pitching warm-ups, they have already done their dynamic stretching and their overhand throwing to get game ready. When you do those general warm-ups before starting your pitching warm-ups, then as you're doing your pitching warm-ups, you can go full out. And it's a good idea to always go full out during pitching warm-ups because you don't want to be in a position where you're warming up nice and leisurely, and then you get into the game and everything speeds up and you're not quite ready to make that transition. Now, the reason that we always start with the flips, it's what I call the fourth quarter. And the reason we always start there is because it allows the pitcher to focus on driving her elbow down so that she can get a good whip. There is some body motion. Some of the pitchers will start with their feet together and others will start with their feet apart, and it doesn't really matter. There's a little rhythm that is generated doing it either way. But the important thing is to focus on whipping the hand through past the hip. Okay, let's take a look at the way these guys are doing. And this is a drill, or this is a warm-up, where we're focused on bringing the elbow down. So let's take a look at that first. And the two on the bottom are doing a much better job of that than the two on the top. And it's not surprising at all that the two on the bottom throw much, much harder than the two on the top. And so when you're dealing with the two on the top, as an inexperienced pitching coach, you need to have some drills available that will help reinforce bringing the elbow down, keeping that elbow flex going all the way down to the bottom where it can be released and you can get some extra whip on the ball. Now, there's many things that you could talk to these kids about. For example, the one in the lower right, she kind of lunges forward as she's releasing the ball. The one in the upper right, she's pushing with her foot sideways. And then she also accelerates her hand after release instead of before the release. The one on the lower left slides her weight forward too fast, and she doesn't keep her wrist or her hand close to her hip at release. And then the one on the upper left, her shoulders and hips are not on top of each other, and the front leg is not very firm. Now, in dealing with these individual situations, as a pitching coach, you've got to make the decision what it is you're going to emphasize and what you're not at that particular point in time. Because kids can only handle so much, and they really need to focus on one or maybe two things at any given time. You don't want to overwhelm them and say, here's the 14 things that you should be doing better, because that will, not get them motivated to do any one of those. And so, you have to make the decision as to where to go, work on specific situations to deal with those exact things, and leave the rest of it for some other point in time. Now, I was watching my 10th grader last fall warming up for a game. And she was doing her flips, and I was, talking to people, and come back, and I look after about 15 minutes, and she's still doing the flips. And so after the game, I talked to her. I said, wow, you spent a lot of time on those flips. When do you go on to the next piece of your warm-up routine? And she just looked at me and said, when I'm satisfied. And that's the way we had worked ever since her first pitch. I had said, okay, we're not going to go on to step 2 until I'm satisfied with step 1. We're not going to go on to step 3 until I'm satisfied with step 2. And that's, in general, a fairly good philosophy to deal with the kids. Now, you can't hold them back forever until they're perfect. You just have to hold them back until they have a reasonable comprehension and a reasonable ability to execute what it is you're trying to get accomplished.